Live from the greatest city in the world, it's the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. What's happening? Here we go. Around the world. I've been around the world. What's going on, everybody? Here we go. It's the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live, sponsored by New York Hardcore Comics, The Organic Grill, The Texas Silver Rush, Chain Reaction Records and Skateboards, Your Core Hardcore fan page, and of course, The Organic Grill. Yeah, oi, oi, oi. What's going on? That's right, Mike Marino. Big Crumbsucker Day today. Yeah, it is Sunday. It is Sunday shout-out show. So, yo, Pepe Bayonne 1 shouting out Tracy. All right. Jay Fury, my man. What's up, Jay Fury? Hope you're well, bro. There you go. When's the big Fury 5 reunion? All right, what's happening in Belgium? Happy Hanukkah to all members of the tribe. That's right. Gary, looking forward to this one. Yeah, man. A lot of people looking forward to this one. Robert in Scotland. What's up, bro? Mike Roberts. What's up? Paul, the whole gang. Here we go. Yeah. Yeah. What do I need to tell you? How about this? This Wednesday, coming up this Wednesday, make sure you check it out. We have Mr. Todd Morse from Offspring, H2O, and Juliet and the Licks. And yes, I do want to get Juliette Lewis on the show. We will do that. And then a week from today, hey, a week from today, what do you say? It's the Global Unity Show with Lai and Riz, our boys from Beijing and Hong Kong. This will be cool. Everybody better check that out. Guaranteed to have bad reception. It's the Global Unity Show. And then after that, let me just throw this in the mix. As we say. After that, we have the holiday show, episode 88, Wednesday, December 23rd. Lots of guests. Listen, I want to tell you something about this holiday show. This holiday show is going to be one of those deals. It's going to be like a 3-hour show. We're marching in all kinds of people through the show, a couple of special guests. So that's what's up with the holiday show. If you're in a rush and you got something to do, this ain't the place for you. After that, we got John Joseph, musician, author, Ironman triathlete. And, we were just talking about this before about John Joseph coming on the show. We're not going to talk about too much Cro-Mags drama because who really cares at this point? So maybe we'll touch on it, but we're not going to get deep into all that Cro-Mags nonsense already. God. And then Wednesday, December 30th, Randy Blythe from Lamb of God. And then crucified, skinhead army, crucified for your sins. Sab Gray coming on the show. Oh, sorry, I forgot to. What's wrong with me today? What's wrong with you? Hold on. Damn. There you go. Sorry. Holiday show, John Joseph, Randy Blythe, and Sab Gray. But enough of all that. I'm sure what you're really wondering about is what's up with the hardcore shutterbug, Steven Messina. What's up, bro?
What's up?
What do you say, man?
Greetings from West Side Yard, New York
West
City.
West
Side. Look at I got the M9 behind me. See that? State of the art right there.
The M9, huh?
That's the M9. That's the latest, greatest. That's what we got right there.
Huh.
That's a nice one. Look, it's got a nice racing stripe on the side.
Hold on, let me see. Yeah.
That's the M9. It's a beauty.
What do those go for per car?
Oh, that's more than I got on me.
More than I'm
carrying right now.
Think you're $1 million a car? Nah.
Oh, easily way more than that.
Really?
I would say.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Per car, that's a good question. I'll get back to you on that.
Okay.
In the meantime, let's do Picture of the Day.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, you asked for it, you got it. This is Picture of the day, wrong answers only. Boom. Paulie Porkchop says, I'm so happy that Steven didn't get fired.
Me too, Paulie. Me too.
Yeah, him too. Federico wants to shout out Sid's shirt. All right. Hey, Stephanie, what's up? What's happening? Super hot Texas women, man. What's up? What's up, Adrian? What's happening in Bremen, Germany? Bremen, Germany, my kind of town. Anyway, here we go.
Germany.
Is it Michael? Is it Roxy Music? Is it Greg Ginn on vocals? Is it Michael Jackson? Is it Tom Jones? Is it Paul Simon?
We got to get Tom Jones on the show.
Tom Jones probably is in no shape to come on the show. Is it Iggy Pop?
I love that guy.
Is it Perry Farrell and C6 Steve? Oh, is it Crosby, Stills, and Nash minus Nash?
Crosby and Stills.
Astoria Lou wants to know can you let me go bomb on those trains?
I can't answer that here.
Is it Debbie Gibson?
I
All
think
right.
she goes by Deborah Gibson now.
Hold on, let's do another one. You sent me a couple, right?
Yes.
Is it? Oh, wow. Who are these guys?
Who are these people?
Who are these strange people, and why are they watching my show? Here's another one from that same band, right?
Boom. Yeah, I love that shot.
Is it Frank Sinatra? Is it Willie Nelson's guitar player? ZZ Top. All right. Paul Simon. Listen, stuck in my head now. All right. Okay. Some right answers. Anybody? Does anybody have any idea who this is? Come on.
Come on now. I'm pretty sure someone's got to know.
There's one
we
more.
got to know.
We got to know. Hey, man, we've got to know. Nice. One more from that same band, right?
Yeah.
Here it is from that same band. How about some right answers? Anybody? Is it Frank Zappa? Wow. Is it Flea? Is it Jimmy Bower, Black Sabbath? Drew for sure. Dude, stop it.
Luzaretsky.
Is it Doyle is it Rick Rubin? Is it the Crazy Donkey?
Actually, no, it's not this time around.
Really?
No.
I Hate God? Wow, nobody's getting this one.
Really?
Is it Exodus?
No.
Crowbar. Terry Butler? Let me put
I knew I threw a curveball with this one, and I kind of purposely did, but they should be ashamed.
Well, I don't know, man. Let me see.
Well, no, I did it. I have intent on this, so.
Okay, so here we go. This is the singer of the band.
Yes.
Let's give him a clue. This band, before the singer, was it before or after this? I don't know if it was before or after, but this same guy sang for Scatterbrain, right?
You are correct. That's afterwards.
Right. So this is the band that these guys had before Scatterbrain. Anybody?
And he doesn't like to be called dude.
And he doesn't like to be called dude. And I had a fist fight with him back in the day.
Now that's a story we're gonna need to hear one day.
Yeah, me and this guy had it out. Is it Ludacris?
Now we're getting somewhere.
Yes, Ludacris.
Thank you, Larry the Hunter.
There we go. Tommy Christ, Ludacris, Adam Sachs, Ludacris, Tommy Christ. All right, let's hear. Oh, here you go. You're right. Tommy Christ and Paul Nita. All right, tell us about it.
Well, we're looking at Ludacris right here. And the greatest thing about this particular pictures is these pictures were taken this year. Thank God. This was taken in February. And it was at a place called Mulcahy's in Wantagh, Long Island. And it was a Sundance reunion show. And for all the Long Islanders. And it was Ludacris, Overkill and Toxic Shock. And Ludacris just killed it. I mean, they're classic. And the reason I chose these pictures for today is because Ludacris and the Crumbsuckers actually would play back in the day on Long Island at Sundance. In fact, when the Crumbsuckers reunited at BB King's, Ludacris was on that bill as well.
And let me get this straight. This was at Sundance?
No, this is a Sundance reunion at Mulcahy's in Wantagh, Long Island.
At Mulcahy's? That place even have a stage?
Oh, it's that room is huge.
Really?
Yeah, Mulcahy's is a big room.
Okay.
And it was Ludacris, Overkill, and a band called Toxic Shock. And and they were great. And that was, like I said, that was one of the last shows of 2020. That was Immaculate Deception is a classic, like combat core. I believe it was a combat core record.
Yeah, I think so. Combat,
and,
yeah. Pretty sure.
And that was the label that put out Life of Dreams, I believe, was on there. And
whoa, let's not get ahead of ourselves here,
I hear you. But
yeah, I had a scrap with him back in the day.
Yeah. What happened with Tommy Christ and you and Tommy Christ? Can you talk about it?
I don't know, man.
Are you the reason he wrote Most People Are Dicks or no?
Listen, it was like it was just some dumb shit, and we scrapped. It was one of those things where we scrapped for a minute. There was some punches thrown, and then our respective like parties like pulled us apart. And
wow.
It was I don't even remember what it was about. It wasn't about a girl, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a big fan of Ludacris. The two records were I love them both, and just one of those bands. And again, they became. And it's funny because I remember back at Sundance, Ludacris morphing into Scatterbrain at the same time that the Crumbsuckers were morphing into Heavy Rain.
Hey, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Again, I don't want to, a lot of entanglements here.
Jesus, man.
But
Jesus,
yeah.
Moses. Come on. Hey, listen, live from New York. It's the Stephen Messina Show with your host, Stephen Messina. Hey, Stephen, what's happening out there?
Hey. Hey, I haven't brought up Star Wars, so,
Listen. Oh, speaking of Star Wars, you know what? Real quick, hold on. Yo, bro.
Hey, guys. What's up?
I heard some shit today. Is it true that what channel is releasing like 30 Star Wars new shows? Is that? I thought of you, bro. What's going on?
I'm in my glory, and I hope I live.
Oh, wait, hold on. Wait, hold on a second. Hold on. Whoa. What's this about all the Star Wars shit, man?
That's awesome.
So it's all about Baby Grogu. It's all about the Mandalorian right now, man. This is Boba Fett, which it's I got to say something about the whole Mandalorian story and the
no. I want to know about.
All right, there's 10 shows coming from Disney right now. 10 Star Wars shows. Ahsoka Tano, Andor, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Visions, Rogue One Squadron, Droids. There's 4 I can't think of. There's like Andor. No, but I'll tell you what.
Let's break this down one at a time.
I'll be really serious here. You might take it, not serious Star Wars, but I'll tell you what, it's being done so well. And all the little bells and whistles are in there. So Star Wars fans that never got to see certain things, we only read it in a book. We only heard about what Boba Fett did. Boba Fett was only in Empire Strikes Back for a few moments. And he became one of the most epic characters of all time out of it. He's like their Wolverine, So for it to be full circle, and I will end it with this, and have a great show. I'll come back later if I can and say hi to our guest. But That also, Boba Fett started as a 1-minute story on a Christmas special for Star Wars, and now Mandalorian has filled that arc and tied it all together. It's just like beautiful, you know?
It's heavy, man, heavy.
All the expanded universe and canon of Star Wars is getting put into the show, and it puts all the old stuff in the show, and, you know, it's incredible.
All right. Hey, listen, bro, if you're happy, I'm happy, dude.
Let's live long enough to see it, you know?
Yeah, you think you're going to make it that far?
Yeah, of course.
All right. Hey, I'll see you.
You can't argue with Ratbone's passion for this stuff.
Listen,
That's what.
Oh, man.
That's the thing, man.
I'm just a bozo on this bus, bro. What do I know, dude? You know? Hey, listen, I'll see you guys at the end of the show. We got an important guest we got to bring on. I'll see you in a bit.
See everybody in a little while.
Yeah, what's happening? This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. We are sponsored by New York Hardcore Comics, Texas Silver Rush, Chain Reaction Records and Skateboards, Your Core Hardcore fan page, and The Organic Grill. The Organic Grill is a The Organic Grill is a vegan restaurant located in the East Village of New York City at 123 First Avenue, featured in New York Magazine, the New York Times, and Veg News. Their dishes have won numerous awards, including Best Veggie Burger. Their dishes. Yo, what's up with your dishes? They make their own cheeses, sausages, and burger patties, and every dish on the menu can be made gluten-free for you gluten-free motherfuckers. This year, they are celebrating the 20th anniversary, and they're all about having a great time while enjoying amazing, clean food. After 3 months of being closed, they're now open for deliveries. Get in touch with my man, Vlad. Yo, actually, I've been down there 2 times this week. Get in touch with them and order some great food at www.theorganicgrill.com. Also, while we are at it, Your Core Hardcore fan page. In the wake of the pandemic, Your Core Chris created Your Core fan page, utilizing lessons learned from over 20 years of being an educator and social worker. He decided to try to reach where hardcore punk and the surrounding genres of bands create not only their music, but their message. The interviews are from a psychological perspective to harvest motivation, personal insight, and perspective. Please, that's a lot of perspective. Please reach out to them on Facebook or Instagram if you have content to share or you want to promote your band, even if your band sucks. Your Core Hardcore fan page. That said, what's happening? Everybody okay in the chat room? I wish I still smoked weed. Why? So you can watch 300 Star Wars shows? Bro. Okay. Here we go. Everybody else okay? Yo, it is Shout Out Sunday. Also, I want to say this as we get rolling here. If you have a question for today's guest, and it's a really important question, because sometimes these questions go right past us, we have this super chat thing. Take a yarmulke off, spend $2, spend $5, put up a super chat. I'll see it. I guarantee you, unless it's something totally perverse and off base, it'll be the next question I ask. Next question I ask our guests. So that said, I'm not going to get into anything else right now. Let me clear the deck. What the heck? Let's clear the deck. Let's bring our guest on. Here we go, yo. Here we go, yo, here in New York. All right. I'm ready. You're ready. We're ready, mob style. Let's go. Here we go. Today's guest is an American bass player and songwriter hailing from Baldwin, Long Island. Long Island represent. He's known for his work with the pioneers of the crossover thrash movement, Crumbsuckers, and for the past 30 years and an incredible 15 albums, Propane. Please welcome old school A7 alumni represent, coming at us from lovely Sarasota, Florida, our old friend, Gary Meskel. What's up, man?
Hey, my old friend Drew. How you doing, my friend? And good to be with you all. It's really been a entertaining show so far, and you guys have some really great chemistry, man. I'll tell you that. I can tell you, it's not your first rodeo on the air.
No, it's not.
As they say.
Yeah, and we have a good time with it, man. You know, we sort of we go where the horse leads us, and you know, we created this show as a real alternative to sort of the politics, and just, you know, turn that stuff off and come here, and we're going to talk about really, the tie that binds us together, and that's music. That's what this is about.
Yeah, it's great. And I think it's very inspirational for a lot of people, especially younger people getting into the scene. When I was a young kid, I used to listen to Noise the Show, and with Tim Summer, and that's really what inspired me to get into this music, and eventually as a musician. But it's shows like this that really are very important, especially growing up, and it's an important part of people's youth.
Well, I'm honored that you say that, because Noise the Show, we're pretty much, we're from the same generation. You and I, we're from the same first wave of American hardcore, and I'm flattered, because Noise the Show, Tim Summer. I mean, we used to that was a big deal. Remember, we used to.
It was a really big deal.
You would tape it, and then you'd tape it and flip the tape, and you would hear stuff hear stuff that was our that was our conduit. That was our internet.
Yeah, we would, when it was on that extreme end of the dial, if you know what I mean. And my protocol was, being from Baldwin, as you said earlier, I was a suburban kid, and so I grew up listening to Noise the Show during the week. So I'd get my dose of punk rock and hardcore during the week. Yeah. And on the weekends, I would, go to Baldwin train station, take the train into Penn Station, go down to West 4th Street, go to all the, like 99 Records and Bleecker Bob's.
Oh, yeah.
Pick up some stuff, or scout out some stuff to pick up on the way home, because we might be in the mosh pit a little bit later on. And we go down to CBGB's, and this was our religious thing, every Sunday matinees.
Let me ask you, hold on one second. First off, hey, listen, can I talk to this fucking guy a second before you start asking questions? Let me fucking talk to this guy a second before you ask every fucking question on the Jesus Moses, man, chopping at the bit. So let's get it on. So what was happening with you when the zombie apocalypse hit? I know you have quite a career in Europe. I know you go over there pretty much every summer. When this thing hit, did you have shows booked? What happened?
We were just at the beginning of our first U.S. tour in several years. So it took really a lot to make that happen, because out of the band and crew, I'm the only person living in the States, so there were a lot of work visas and things like that. There's a lot of bureaucracy involved in making it happen, aside from the booking end of things. And we were thrilled that everything finally went through, and everything, and everyone cleared customs. It was like, it was rough, and then finally we traveled toward New York from Florida, a packed up huge van, and we were gonna travel by van and stay in hotels. That was pretty much the game plan. So we get to New York. We played our first show in Amityville, and everyone was a little shaky, because we knew that things were going down with this coronavirus, and but there was no stopping us at that point. We were determined to do the tour, and the next day we got up in Philadelphia, and our booking agent said that 18 shows were just canceled. This was first thing in the morning, and I said, well, we have, we can't just stay out here, and just pray that one show out of every 5 or 6 happens, because there was this domino effect happening at that time. And I just said, well, I got to get you guys home. That's what I'm worried about right now. So we went to a couple of different airports in the area, in the zone. And thankfully we were able to fly everybody home. And then, wow. My wife and I and one of our guitar players drove back down to Florida. That was it. It was it was really, really rough, and we lost so much money, and
shit.
But what can you do, right? It's one of those things it just happens, and you have to bite your lip and try to move forward, and hope for better things ahead.
Yeah, I mean, this is a common theme with a lot of the musicians coming on the show, and I'm assuming as of right now, there is no sort of game plan. You're just in a holding pattern. I'm assuming that let's just wait till this thing blows over and then we'll reorganize. Because I see that some people are like moved everything back a year, but it seems to me like even that's in jeopardy now.
Yeah, we're sort of right back where we were at the beginning. Unfortunately, they're having lockdowns again in Belgium, from what I understand. I heard that from some of my close Belgian friends, and there's like this worldwide cycle going on where we're maybe a little bit behind the second wave that's happening in Europe now, and it's really difficult to assume what the future's going to hold for bands such as ourselves, because when and if this thing lifts, who's to say what the playing field is going to be all about? It's definitely going to change, and I'm worried that there's going to be maybe too many restrictions that a certain percentage of people aren't going to want to deal with, maybe even including myself, and I'm worried about the clubs. I'm worried about the promoters, and then what if under the best circumstances we get the green light to come back, and then the promoters are still on edge, rightfully so, and they say, well, we'll do like a door deal, and that goes all the way around, and then we're just losing tons of money again. So I try not to think about that stuff too much, and I'm trying to let the situation kind of iron itself out. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm determined to come back and to come back stronger than ever before. I'm really determined about that.
Fantastic.
So I've been utilizing this time off to try to focus on myself, mentally, physically, and to prepare, if and when we get the green light to come back, and to be a better, stronger band.
Let's talk a little bit about how you grew up, how you came up, how did music come into your life, and and how did the Suckers come together?
Well, I grew up with a lot of big band jazz in the house, because my father was a very, very big fan of like Benny Goodman and Glenn Gray, Louis Armstrong, all the greats. And he was such a big fan that, as soon as I opened my eyes in the morning, I would hear jazz downstairs. And then he worked for the New York Daily News. He was an organized crime journalist, and I think that was kind of a good contrast for his mindset, this music was like a soothing, it was almost medicinal for him, and because he had a pretty rough job in dealing with a lot of like mafia types, and I would speak to a lot of these people that they wrote movies about on the telephone when I was a kid, like my father co-wrote a lot of books with some of the biggest gangsters, like Joe Lucarelli.
Wow.
He was the original Joe Fish, and that's where Joe Pesci got his character from, because Pesci is fish, But the original Joe Fish was one of my dad's good friends, and then it goes on from there. The Persico family and the Gaudis and all this. It was sort of part of my childhood. I was never involved, but I was too young. But
Carmine Persico,
it was
right?
interesting how an organized crime journalist can be really tight friends with some of these real notorious gangsters, and they kind of made things. They had this peace between them,
Wow, that's
how I got into music. In a general way. I think around my early teen years, I started getting into more extreme music, and that sort of segues into the Noise the Show, Tim Summer thing.
Mm-hmm.
I just happened to stumble upon this music down the dial, looking for something to listen to, and it was like a revelation. I was like, what is this? It was the game changer. I said, wow, this is like the right music at the right time for me. So I had this teen angst, that.
How old were you here? How old?
I was probably almost 13.
Wow.
Something like that. When I maybe 13. I think I was 15 when I went to my first show, which was not my first concert, but my first like punk rock experience. It was at the Ukrainian National Home, and it was on Halloween night. It was the Misfits and the Necros, and I think I was 15. And I saw Harley there, you know, and he's a bit younger than I am, and he was this little kid. I was like, wow, look at this guy, unbelievable, man. He had this mohawk at the time, and a real long, like a trench coat. I was like, look at this kid. I was fascinated. I said, what did I just stumble into? I got really close to the stage, and then all of a sudden, like a mosh pit broke out, and I wasn't really prepared for it. But it was really it was a game changer, man. And then I started to really get into going to shows on a weekly basis. And eventually, you know, at some point when I was still 15, I started to play start the band. We called it the Crumbsuckers, but we were largely playing cover songs at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So we would play stuff like Warhead from UK Subs. I think we were playing some Misfits like 138, and you know, stuff from like the old singles and the EP days.
Yep.
And maybe some other punk rock stuff like Vibrators, and I think we were doing like Flying Duck Theory.
And why bass? Why did you gravitate to bass?
A good friend of mine from Rahway, New Jersey, his name's Randy Fellows. We were sort of allies in this whole thing. We loved new wave music also. So we were following bands like U2 and stuff, even when they first started, and bands like Ultravox. And it was very bass driven, if you remember.
Yes, of course. Ultravox for sure.
And he said, I just picked up a bass guitar and I'm learning all this stuff. So he was learning stuff from the first Cars album and maybe even some early Joe Jackson, which had real cool bass too. Yeah. Elvis Costello and the Attractions, great bass. And I said, so I asked my mom, I said, can you get me a bass guitar? And there was a music store in the north of Baldwin Music, something like that. And she bought me this bass that looked like a Gibson SG. It was like a maroon, but the cutout was the same as like an SG, but it was a bass. Right. And it was like an off-brand, but it was cool. That was my first bass, and I started to pick up learn songs on my own.
Is that this?
No, that's the Beatle bass.
Okay, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. That's a great shot. We'll get to that. Go ahead. Keep going.
I don't even recall where I got that particular bass. But that was like the Paul McCartney model. Pretty.
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah. That's like a hard. That's kind of very not hardcore. But let's not go there yet. I'm curious. How did the original Crumbsuckers come together? It was all Baldwin, Long Island guys, right?
Yeah, I mean that bass. That's like it's more for Captain Sensible than me, right? That's like the Damned all the way.
Yeah. Oh, here you go. Baldwin Music, Grand Ave and Seaman Ave. The old original Crumbsucker singer Dave Brady says Baldwin Music. Yeah.
Hey, Dave. Awesome. Yep. Yeah, that's the place, and that was the place we went to get strings and instruments and picks. Mm-hmm. I think I was playing one of those old school felt picks, for bass.
Nice.
That's what they suggested, and I didn't know any better back then. So that's how I learned by playing with one of those picks. And then there was one summer we were trying to kind of throw some things on the slate, for the summer, because summers can be boring if you don't, in high school. And, if you don't really have a lot of things lined up, like going to camp or something like that. And I was like, why don't we start a band? I have this bass. I got these felt picks. Let's do something, man. And we got this new music that, that we're into. Why don't we do it? And it was a phone call to a friend of mine named Franco Capelli, the original guitar player, what became the original guitar player. And I said, you want to start a band this summer? He's like, yeah. He was a good guitar player. And he said, what do you want to call it? And we had this character from high school, this guy we used to call the Crumbsuckers, the Crumbsucker in lunch, because he would eat these sandwiches and then he would lick his fingers and mop up the crumbs afterwards. So we were like, it's the Crumbsucker, you know? And when we were searching for a band name, I said, we'll just call it the Crumbsuckers, you know? And he laughed and he said, all right, cool. And we had like this underground spring of people that just followed us around. And before we could even second guess the name, we were kind of popular, you know? So we would go and play in these bars, even as teenagers. They wouldn't let us stay because there's alcohol in there. It says, okay, when you're done, you have to leave. We said, okay, you know.
Now I saw this, you know, I have this extensive. Oh wait, I gotta hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I think I messed this up. I gotta find this again. Hold on. I found a great early flyer. Hold on. Where did I find this? I know I shouldn't have touched it. You know. I'll get back to it as you go. But who was in the original band?
Let's see. Chris Anderson, who was a neighbor of mine, was the original singer. The original drummer was Jason Bolanini, also a neighborhood kid. I was on bass, and we had Franco Capelli on guitar. That was the original Crumbsuckers.
Okay, and then things sort of moved from there. I mean, I know there was a little bit of an ebb and a flow. I mean, and then eventually, I guess, you know, I think Dave Wynn was in there originally, right?
Not originally, but we had some earlier lineup changes just because, you know, we were so young and everyone had different obligations and goals. And
yeah.
So Dave Brady was our second vocalist.
Now,
and the one who actually was representing us in the early club stages, you know?
I came across this. Crumbsuckers from Baldwin, Long Island, in their debut New York City performance at CBGB's. Honestly, I was really blown away to see the date on this, man. This was like 1983, man. You guys were playing CBGB's in 83 already.
Yeah, Roger from Agnostic Front actually hooked us up with our first CBGB's show, and it was with HR and Company, you know, HR from the Bad Brains. And that was a huge thing for us because, you know, even, you know, like when you were in elementary school and when you graduate, they give you some, a lot of us had these like books where you get the teachers to sign it.
Yeah, yeah.
And they say good luck in junior high and all that kind of stuff. And I still have this book. It's a blue book. And in the back, I must have written this when I was graduating 6th grade. It says Bad Brains #1. So for me to be on a stage and sharing the stage with HR, you know, I mean, I was like starstruck, man, you know, at the time, because I was the biggest fan, you know, and I had become pretty good friends with Roger and the guys, the AF guys, at the street level. You know, we would hang out and he was very instrumental in us getting a foothold in New York City and getting, you know, places like CBGB's and A7 and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
and Vinny too. You know, we used to go over to Vinny's apartment and cut stickers, you know, for Agnostic Front. Way back in the day, it was all hands on because it was like bands just supporting bands. We didn't have like all of these other, like, we didn't have this fan base really. It was just really bands supporting other bands.
I love this one right here, man. This is like, actually, this was on 2 shows ago because Mike Judge from Death Before Dishonor was on the show, and I put this up. But I mean, look at this this A7 show is also in '83. This is a little bit after that CBGB show. But wow, look at this. Agnostic Front, Death Before Dishonor, Crumbsuckers, Mental Decay. You know, wow. I mean, and also, you know, you guys you guys are on the A7 plaque. Any memories? Any A7 memories?
Yeah, we were playing A7 with Dave Brady on vocals way back when, and a lot of the kids from the city, they really respected us, and they were really getting into our music at that time. So it was sort of an important statement for us, and a very important thing to accomplish was to get the respect of not only the suburban Long Island kids, but kids around the tri-state area, and especially the more urban kids. And we had good shows there. I saw a lot of other good shows there. I saw Kraut there.
Yeah, man.
Which was a really great show.
Yeah,
and,
man.
I saw Agnostic Front there a couple times. I saw Murphy's Law there. Harley Flanagan was playing drums for Murphy's Law back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether it was just a fill-in show, but he was playing for that.
No, he played for a while. Yep.
But really a great venue, and that's really what started it all. It was really, really small, really tight in there, but that's the place that really gave bands such as ourselves the platform, and somewhere to grow out of. So it was really, really important, hence the plaque, to acknowledge the whole scene there, what I guess is called Niagara these days.
It's called Niagara these days, but the place is co-owned by our friend Jesse Mallon, who used to be in the band Heart Attack, who is he's an old school hardcore kid, and he's a big supporter of mine in the show. And it's really great to have somebody with that kind of history that actually has control of that venue now. We've done shows in there, and he's the one that really went out of his way to. He made the first plaque, and then when there was a little bit of a sort of, hey, why aren't we on that plaque? He sort of, he went and made the second one. But I do want to say
I saw Heart Attack, by the way, way back in the day. They were one of the real OGs, And I don't know where I saw them. It might have been like the Mud Club or something. I mean, they were playing venues before we were even playing places like A7, and they were great.
Yeah. One thing I want to say is that, back then, you were a part of this thing, and I know Crumbsuckers went on to be a really known as like a big crossover band. But back then, we considered, and I know you considered yourselves, a hardcore band. You guys were like part of the family. You guys were Crumbsuckers were the Long Island guys, the Long Island hardcore guys.
Right. Yeah, it was just, we were just a hardcore band from Long Island. That's what we were considered. We didn't even stop to realize, how the differences in our style at that time. We didn't know that we were doing something that far removed from what the sort of like the purest hardcore bands were doing at the time. And I think a lot of it came from the fact that we had different musical backgrounds. On Long Island at that time, there weren't so many people into this kind of thing. So it was hard to find musicians like, hey man, we're playing stuff like Kraut and Heart Attack. They'd be like, who? Yeah. They couldn't really identify with this new scene that I was getting into by listening to Noise, the show, and all that stuff. But they wanted to be part of a band playing exciting new music, nonetheless. So we had, like Chuck Lenahan, who was listening. He's like a Van Halen guy, coming into a band that was taking on more of like a punk rock and hardcore direction. So we had all of these different influences, and I think it was just because, we had different musical upbringings, and so we added different ingredients into the pot, and we came up with something a little different. It wasn't until a couple of years later when the press started to write about what was happening in New York, and they called it like, well, we have these crossover bands like Crumbsuckers, and I was completely fine with that. I don't mind it. I think that I think it works. If you, in retrospect, especially if it's important to be able to define something that's different, I think, and that's exactly what the crossover terminology is all about. And perhaps even more important is that the crossover scene was responsible for shining a broader spotlight on this thing that was happening in New York, because all of a sudden these metal guys were, they were enthralled by this new music, because they, not only was it, rough and tumble and a little dangerous, but it also had elements of shredding guitar solos and stuff that these guys could really identify with. So next thing you know, we had guys like the Anthrax guys coming down to the shows and supporting New York hardcore. We had Pantera, Metallica, and off it went. For good or bad, it really shined a huge spotlight on the scene.
Absolutely, and in my film, the New York Hardcore Chronicles film, I talked to Kirk Hammett from Metallica, and he really loved the Crumbsuckers, and he was a big, it was funny, and I've told this story before, but here it goes again real quick. I was in Metallica's rehearsal room, and I was interviewing those guys for the Michael Alago film that I directed. Who the fuck is that guy? The Fabulous Journey. Thank you, Michael Alago. So I'm in there, and look, I've known those guys for years. Same as you, like from that era. Now, for me, it was a little more peripherally. But me and Kirk Hammett had a mutual friend, and I get into the rehearsal room with Kirk, and there's a little chit chat before we get started, and I'm interviewing him, and he starts looking at me funny, and I'm thinking, what's going on? And he just sort of in the middle of the interview, he goes, "What's up with New York hardcore?" I go, "Bro, you want to talk New York hardcore? I'll turn this fucking camera off, and I'll turn it back on, and we could talk New York hardcore." And he's like, "Let's talk New York hardcore." So I shut down the Michael Alago interview and started up the camera again. And that's how we ended up in the New York Hardcore Chronicles film. And the one record that he just really loved is Life of Dreams. And, that really, and he says that in that moment, he really thought that like New York hardcore was going to be like grunge was it was going to be the next big musical movement, like, or a crossover at that moment. Crossover out of New York was going to be like grunge out of Seattle. It was going to be like the next really big musical movement. And so, tell us a little bit about like that moment and Life of Dreams, and just sort of, this record is just hugely influential record.
Well, the Metallica guys, they had a big influence on the hardcore scene with a lot of with certain bands, and that now we're going around the mid to late 80s, I guess you could say. And I guess Kirk in particular really took a liking to what we were doing, and I think a lot of it had to do with the guitar players that we had in the band, who were, I think, a bit ahead of their time, for this new kind of music that we were coming up with, and he really appreciated it. And he one time he came down to CBGB's. I think he showed up with John Zazula, the owner of Megaforce Records.
Yeah.
And I think they were the first to sign Metallica for the Kill 'Em All album. So they came down, and they had quite an entourage with them. And somebody said to me, "Hey, man, Kirk wants to come up and jam." I said, "Well, does he know? He knows the songs. They're just like any spot where you go into like a big guitar solo or something like that. Just if you can extend it a few bars, then you can just get up there and jam. So he doesn't really have to know the song. He could just jam on some kind of a lead." And we said that's awesome. Let's do it. Let's get the cameras rolling too. And so we figured Hub Run, because that's got a long lead toward the end of the song. We could just play it a couple minutes longer and just let him do his own thing.
Sure.
And he got up on stage, and it was great. It was really great. There was a little bit of schism, because a lot of some people, they thought it was it wasn't the forum, for that kind of thing. Maybe they thought it might have been a bit premature, or not really again, not really the forum for this kind of metal stuff to be going on at a hardcore show, you know. But it was a legendary moment for CBGBs and for Crumbsuckers and for that kind of music, and a bit of a controversial moment.
Yeah, I know. And you know, listen, that's the life we chose, and that's the game we're in, and that's what I deal with all the time. You know, you can't you put chocolate in my peanut butter, you put peanut butter in my chocolate. How dare you? You can't do you can't do this in punk rock. You can't do that. Yeah.
And it's all part of the landscape, you know, and as you said earlier, you know, before I got on the air with you, I was listening, and you were talking about that you had a fight with Tommy Christ. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, the two of the nicest guys ever in the scene actually fought each other. That was news to me. It was, you know, I got a chuckle out of that one, man. I really did. And
you know what?
And you know, Tommy is really one of the nice guys, as you are yourself. And but back in the day, you know, we had this angst, and who knows what could have happened, right?
That's what it was, bro. That's what it was. It was like I don't remember exactly, but it was something like we were at a show, and he, like, you know, he was a little drunk, and I think, you know, he was whipping his hair around, and I got sick of it, and I was like, yo, you know, I gave him a push, and then that set it off. You know, it was just, yo, you're young. You know, when you're young, man, you know, when you're young.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Exactly. And that stuff happened. I mean, it's not a jazz concert, right? So
yeah,
there were things going on, and you know, it could get a little rough. It could get a little rough at times, as you know, and I think even more so now, you know, with the mosh pits of today. It's a different ball game, and you know, in retrospect, it was a little bit more fun, you know, back then. But it was, you know, there was still some. It was still a bit rough enough around the edges where there would be some fights and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk a little bit about this club in Brooklyn, L'Amour, and you guys were really a club favorite. I mean, you guys played L'Amour a lot. You played on some real eclectic bills. You were the kind of band that if a metal band was coming to town and they needed somebody, they could call on you. If a hardcore band was coming into town and they needed somebody, they could call on you. Right. Any L'Amour memories?
Yeah. I think one of the reasons for what you just said is that we were sort of the band that bridged the hardcore scene into the metal scene, and it was a perfect thing for like L'Amour's in Brooklyn, because they had primarily a metal audience at the time, you know, with the early Overkill stuff, and I think the guys that ran the club were out also managing Overkill. Very nice guys also.
Mike and George.
They thought, well, we have this big scene at CB's, so why don't we try to get bands like Crumbsuckers in here, because it's kind of metal but not entirely, and it's also hardcore, and it brought in a broader audience, I think.
Yeah, and this is interesting. I just want to want to break with tradition and post this up. Our good friend Paulie Porkchops vid says, Propane played at one of the craziest shows I ever saw. Body Count, Exodus, DRI, Propane, 12/19/92 at L'Amour in Brooklyn. Any memories of the show and or this tour? Did you do this whole tour?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
We did. And you know who was slated to do that tour? Rage Against the Machine.
No shit.
But they blew up so quickly, man, that they bowed out of the tour. But that's a true story.
Right.
Because at that time, that first album just came out for Rage Against the Machine. It was every club, man, that we would play on that tour. That's what was, you know, being chimed in, and it was just destiny. It was going to be huge, you know. But that tour, Body Count, it was awesome. You know, and those bands that were on it, you know, we got to be such good friends as a result of that tour. It was like it was a feel good tour. Most of the shows were sold out in advance, and we all respected each other's music. We all supported each other. It was just really, really, really great.
I've always had really good communique with Ice-T, man. He's a big heavy music lover, great dude, great, good sense of humor, great guy. Hey, I want to shout out Nick K. Yo, Nick, you got a question? You're supposed to put a question when you do that. That's a super chat there. Thanks, man. You got a question, Nick? What is it? Come on. One of the first times that here's to go with that. Here's something to go with that. L'Amour's. Hey, what are you drinking there, man? I know our people in Europe want to know, what are you drinking these days?
I'm drinking sweet water. This one is the 420 strain G13 IPA, which is it's like the marijuana of beers, to be quite honest with you. It's like a hemp strain, and if you're, and I'm not even a pot smoker, but I always enjoyed the smell of weed, and apparently I like the taste of weed too, because this beer tastes a lot like, if you're into dank beers, this is the one, G13.
I didn't know such things existed.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. But it's not so heavy. It's 6%, so it's like a little bit heavier than your standard Budweiser big box varieties. But it's not going to knock you on your ass, So it's actually pretty cool. I like it a lot. One of my favorites.
Fantastic. Here's an ad that I came across. And this sort of, drives that point home. Friday, December 19th, Anthrax, Crumbsuckers, Hallows Eve, and, these were the kind of bills,
That was great. I remember the Hallows Eve guys, too. They were really cool.
Really?
Because, like that, if you walk down the stairs to go to the dressing room in L'Amour's, it's like very communal, kind of, It's like there's not a lot of space, so all the bands are kind of sharing it. And so it doesn't really get, grant anything special to headline status or whatever. So we're all just hanging out together. And I remember the Hallows Eve guys being super cool.
That's awesome.
As well as the Anthrax guys, just really, really great.
Hey, Nick Roach, maybe you should tune into the show earlier on, man, because we already talked about where the Crumbsuckers name came from. Anyway.
Hey, real quick, I'll give you a funny Ice-T story, that we were on this body count thing. We kind of reconnected a couple of years ago. We played the Grass Pop Festival together.
Oh yeah,
in Belgium. And Johnny Depp actually played with his band called the Hollywood Vampires. And he turned out to be a really cool cat, man. Johnny Depp's cool. And during one of the bands, I'm hanging with Ice-T. It's a little bit off of to the side of the stage, and do you see this guy passes by and he's got a big entourage, and it's Joe Perry from Aerosmith, because he's playing with the Hollywood Vampires. And Ice looks at me. He goes, Gary. He goes, who is that? I go, that's Joe Perry from Aerosmith, right? And Ice goes, hey, Joe Perry, right? And Joe doesn't even turn around. So Ice goes, Gary, fuck Joe Perry from Aerosmith. Classic Ice-T, man. He's like the most down to earth guy, man.
Yeah, he's great.
And so funny, really hilarious.
Hey, here, I don't like to forget photos. So here's one from I think it's 85 from the Right Track Inn. Wasn't the Right Track Inn really sort of like your home base? Wasn't the Right Track Inn in Baldwin?
I was in Freeport. It was close enough, because it was right near the Freeport train station. At that time, I was looking for venues just to host this kind of music, this new thing. And the guy's name was Al. I don't recall his last name, but Al from the Right Track Inn was very receptive. I got him on the phone. He said, yeah, I'll have you guys. If you can, pull in a crowd, yeah, I'd love to have you guys here. We got I think $75 and a pizza for playing. And we would fill the place, so. But the pay was always the same, It was like we'd go and sell the place out. It remained at $75 and a pizza. And I started booking other bands there, like Ludacris. I had Ludacris there. I might have even had the very first Sick of It All show at the same venue, Yeah,
that somebody just posted that. Yeah, their first show was at at
the Right Track Inn, and so I co-hosted it, and Al was the guy that ran the venue. But I was sort of running the hardcore. I was sort of like the hardcore promoter from the place. We also had a venue called the Half Crown Pub, which was in Island Park.
Wow.
And we had a lot of legendary gigs there too, with like Agnostic Front, Murphy's Law, Cause for Alarm, Crumbsuckers, and Death Before Dishonor.
Yep.
I think Major Conflict played at the Half Crown Pub.
Do you remember? Do you remember this one here? Do you remember this? Agnostic Front, The Mob, Antidote, Crumbsuckers, and Crackdown at Jim's Country Inn, bro, in West Babylon.
I'll never forget it, man. I'll never forget it. We had each other on the phone, and leading up to that show, we were chatting on the phone about the logistics of the gig.
Yep.
If my memory serves me well.
Yeah.
And I took a fall that night because they had these pool tables, and while I was playing, I slipped on one of the billiards got loose, and I slipped on this ball on this billiard, and I almost cracked my head open, man. I like really hit my head hard. It was all you heard was gong, in the middle of the set. So that was me going down on the bass, But yeah, I'll never forget that show. It was really awesome.
Yeah,
another funny thing about that show is one of our biggest supporters, we called him Jughead. One of my neighbors, Craig Smith, came out. He was so excited about the show. He drank way too much before the gig. So he was passed out in the car, and he made his way somehow into the bushes, but never really into the club, And on the way home, we get him into the car. On the way home, he missed the whole show, and he wakes up and he goes, "Hey man, what time are the Crumbsuckers going on?" That was that night at Jim's Country Saloon. Classic man.
Who sang for? I was singing for Antidote by this point. This was 95, I think. I was already singing for Antidote. I started singing for Antidote in early 90. Excuse me. That was 85. I started singing in 84. So yeah, I was already singing. And I remember the show. I remember Agnostic Front being great, man. They were was
that one of your first gigs with Antidote?
No, I think there was a bunch before that. The first one I did was at Rock Hotel. Remember the Rock Hotel shows? Yeah, great. And then we did some CB shows and stuff like that. But this was a little bit down the line.
You did a great job with that band, and I only saw the band once with the original singer. That was at CBGB's, and I think he was pretty heavily involved with the Krishna scene back then. Maybe he still is. I'm not really sure, but that was sort of his thing,
Yeah, listen, I've been singing for the band for 37 years now, and it is what it is. It is I don't sing on Thou Shalt Not Kill, but I've sang for 37 years and on a bunch of other records, and that's how it is. I mean, at this point, there's it is what it is, man. And there's
a lot of classic stuff. Something Must Be Done is that's like a hardcore anthem, man. Right?
Absolutely. Hey, let's. I got to shout out some sponsors. Let me shout out a couple of sponsors. I'll come back. We'll do Record of the Week with Sid the Kid. All right.
Okay. Cool.
What's happening, boys and girls? This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live, sponsored by New York Hardcore Comics, the Texas Silver Rush, Your Core Hardcore Fan Page, Organic Grill, and Chain Reaction Records and Skateboards, located in Lakewood, Colorado. Must be a lot of snow in Colorado right now, huh? Anybody out there from Colorado? Is it snowing? It's the Rocky Mountain headquarters for all things punk, hardcore, and metal. Established in 2014, they have the largest selection of records, CDs, shirts, stickers, patches, and accessories between Chicago and Los Angeles. From the pit to the ditch, they got your back. Get in touch with them at www.chainreactionrecords.com. Also, our oldest and most cherished sponsor, New York Hardcore Comics. Opened back in 2013 when lifelong friends Debo the Pro and Lee Fraley combine their collections and obsessions for comic books, punk rock, toys, statues, Magic the Gathering, and all things horror. The store is located at 117 Main Street in lovely Dobbs Ferry, New York. If you want to support them during this pandemic, please contact them via email at newyorkhardcorecomics@gmail.com. gmail.com. Also want to remind you, if you want to support this show, this support can use your show. This show can use your support. There is a Patreon page. There it is. Don't be a Hatreon, join Patreon, please. It is our community within a community. I post all kinds of stuff on the Patreon page that I don't want to put out there because it just gets passed around like a cheap Tijuana hooker, and we don't really want to see that happen. I just posted a short film called In the Pit, which is a documentary about slam dancing. It's on the Patreon page. There's a $2 tier, a $5 tier, a $10 tier. I want to shout out some of my new patrons: Brian Ramsey, Jamie Sharappa from SSD Control. Yo, if Jamie Sharappa from SSD Control is one of my patrons, shouldn't you be? Diana Nowitzki, Jacko Suleimanian, Dino Core. Yo, Dino Core. GP, Anja Bittners, Christopher Hoffman, and Keith, a.k.a. Cheetah Thunders on YouTube. Also want to shout out Devor Gajoviak. Thank you all for supporting me and supporting the show. If you're watching this in rerun, there is a subscribe button right there. Subscribe to the show so you get alerts for the show. Oi, oi, oi. Also, there is a link below. Down here, yo. There's a link to the merch, the New York Hardcore Chronicles merch. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put that in the chat room in case any of you bums want to buy. We got the New York Hardcore Chronicle. We got the New York Hardcore the New York Hardcore logo shower curtain, the girl leggings, all that good stuff. So there you go. Yeah, the Beyond documentary just dropped as well. That's right. I got to post that up. Our friend Kevin Egan just posted the new the link to the Beyond doc. So we're going to get that around there. I'm going to post that link up. Very cool documentary. What am I forgetting? The merch, the super chat. Yo, I saw Recon Man. I saw your question about the Crumbsuckers reunion and new material. We will be asking that question. Fear not, young Jedi. What else? You got your Do Good Things and Good Things Come shirt this week? Cool. Send me a picture, bro, when that goes down. Also, want to mention a couple of other shows coming up. Don't forget, Wednesday, January 6th, Jesse Leach from Killswitch Engage is coming on the show. Come on now. You know what I'm saying? You know what's cool about the show right now? Well, it's always been kind of cool about the show is there's a lot of people out there that love the show and want to come on the show. So Jesse's one of them. We're excited to have Jesse on the show. Also, after Jesse, we have Joe Affey from Maximum Penalty coming on the show. Here we go, Joe. Sunday, January 10th. Also, don't be scared, kids. We announced this the other day. I'm sure Gary can appreciate this one. Another old school A7 alumni. We got Kevin Crowley from The Abused coming on the show. Also the creator of the New York Hardcore logo. This should be cool. He talks about it in my film, The New York Hardcore Chronicles. And also, here we go. I'm announcing a brand new show. You hear it here. I just put it on the Patreon page a little while ago. Here we go. Brand new Sunday, January 17th. Episode number 95. What? Here we go. What? Scott Vogel from Terror is coming on the show. So that should be, what can you say, man? We love Terror. We're super stoked on Scott Vogel coming on the show. The hits keep coming. You know what I'm saying? Clank your chains and count your change. It's the New York Hardcore Chronicles live. Did I cover everything? Join Patreon, you bum. If you haven't, come out of the shadows. Stop lurking in the shadows. You can't be a lurker forever. Listen, how blessed am I? I'm doing something I love doing, and I'm able to do that because of your support. So thank you very much. Let's go Buffalo. Yeah, Scott Vogel, Buffalo guy, big Buffalo. Buffalo in the house. That's right, upstate New York. Yo, it is Shout Out Sunday. Want to shout out upstate Rick. I love you, bro. Patreon is worth it totally. Yeah, join Patreon. There you go. What can I say? Scott rules. Yep. It's all going down. It's all going down here on the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. Also, if you didn't know this already, I know this is really old news, but follow me on Instagram. If you have one of these communication devices here on your stay on the planet Earth, the Andromeda system, please follow me on Instagram. It's where the all the announcements are going down, and once in a while I even post something personal on there. Yo, Peter Spira. Yo, my man. All right. Hey, listen, Sid. I got to bring Sid on. I got to do album of the week with Sid. But hold on, Peter. We're gonna do something first. Let me clear the deck here. Let me get rid of all this other stuff. Yo, Gary, what's up, bro?
All right, man. It sounds like you got some great stuff lined up, man. Wow.
Hey,
really
check this out, man. This guy right here, Peter Spira.
I remember Peter.
You remember Peter?
Yeah, from the Pound for Pound video. He was the director of the first video that we ever did.
That's right.
And he's really, really great.
Peter Spira directed the Pound for Pound video for Propane. And I worked on the shoot. I was the second AD, I think I was the AD, the assistant director. And, we worked together on that. That was almost 30 years ago.
Almost 30 years ago, right? How crazy is that?
Oh, man. Unbelievable.
And just to clear the air, from that video, that's why I lost my hair, man. It was a pyrotechnic accident.
Yeah, I was the first AD, Peter says. And
you remember how hot that was with all the fire everywhere? It was really. I think it melted my guitar strap.
We shot at the Riverview Studio in Astoria. I want to ask you something. I remember coming to your rehearsal with Peter before the shoot a couple days, and I remember it was like on the bay. It was on the Sound. It was like on Long Island Sound, because I remember going out the back door and like being like, where was that? What was that?
I think that was
Dan's place?
Probably at my folks' place.
I think so.
We used to rehearse in the porch back there, and it was right on Baldwin Bay, between Baldwin and Freeport on the other side.
That's cool.
You know who directly across from our house was like this big. It was sort of a mansion. I mean, people would drive by and go by in the boats and marvel at this one property. And you know whose property it was? Guy Lombardo.
Oh, wow. I was going to say, let me guess.
The guy who did with his band, he did Old Lang Syne, the New Year's Eve song.
Of course.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. But yeah.
They didn't write it. It was a cover song.
So a little Peter Spira history. And Peter Spira was the executive producer for Who the Fuck Is That Guy? The Fabulous Journey of Michael Alago. Yeah.
I had heard, through the grapevine that Peter went on to do a lot of really, really cool and big projects, And so it's nice that he remembers and chimes in about, the old days. And I don't know whether, this was one of his first endeavors, in directing a music video.
It was. We talked about it.
But very, very, very cool.
Peter Lahowin says yes. The back porch.
Oh, Peter Lahone, one of my old neighbors from home. Yeah, Pete Lahone.
He would know, right?
He would know. He was 3 or 4 doors down.
Oh wow. He would know. You guys banging away. Hey, let's bring Sid the Kid on, and let's do album of the week. What's up, Sid?
What up, Drew? What up, Gary?
How you doing?
What up?
Just getting ready for that good old time winter storm coming in to the Northeast. It's gonna be coming.
Really?
Oh, it's bullshit.
Fake news.
You know, it's gonna snow. Run out, get milk and toilet paper. Come on, man.
At least I prepared for it, even if it doesn't happen. At least I'm prepared.
Bro, I live in a pre-war. I live in a pre-war building that could be a nuclear holocaust out there. Nobody gives a shit in my building, man.
Trust me, Drew. If you still have the fallout shelter sign, I still want to get one of those. That's something I remember seeing when I was a kid.
All right, Sid. Let's do album of the. Yes, actually, you know, someone just chimed in. Peter Spyrer used to be in the band Z Toys back in the day, and that's how I met him when I was, you know, early when Antidote was doing the rock thing, and you know, he was in Z Toys. You know?
Yeah, a lot of bands took that avenue after a while, like even like Ludacris with Scatterbrain, Crumbsuckers, even more so with Heavy Rain. You know,
absolutely. All right, let's do album of the week, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Sid the Kid, by popular demand. Boom, album of the week. Tell us about it, Sid.
Boom. Alrighty, guys. So, you know, this is one of those records, you know, I always got to go through the archives and try to pick something, you know, that would relate to the guest this week. This is definitely one, you know, for sure. Obviously, this is Whiplash, Power of Pain. This is their first LP. It was recorded in late 85 at System 2 Studios in Brooklyn, New York, and was produced by CBGB's own sound man, Norman Dunn, for those, you know, old school people know who Norman is. And it was released by Roadrunner in February of 86. This album, for sure, you know, was one that, you know, it was there, but not a lot of people even then kind of gave it the credit it truly deserved, because, you know, within that crossover period, you know, you had Leeway, you had Nuclear Assault, you had Carnivore, Crumbsuckers, so on and so forth. But they were that band, in my opinion, I saw a couple of times, and they definitely did have a big effect on me. I mean, if you want hard, straight up thrash heavy sound, this is that record for sure that you can't touch it. And especially specifically, you know, Tony Scaglione's on this record too, an amazing drummer, you know, and it shows within this record as well.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, Gary, any recollection of this record or this band?
Oh yeah, absolutely. At the time, we were managed by the same manager of Whiplash, Agnostic Front, and Carnivore.
Connie Barrett.
And it was a woman by the name of Connie Barrett.
Yep.
And
Good
so
old
we had sort of the same contacts, you know, with business, because she sort of pulled from the same pool of people, if you know what I mean, in terms of attorneys and even artists. Is this a Taggart piece?
Yes.
Yes, it is actually. Sean did the artwork for this album as well.
Yep.
Right. And that's why, you know, Sean, he did the Whiplash album, Carnivore, one of the AF albums, maybe other ones, I'm not sure, but also the Crumbsuckers Life of Dreams album.
Yeah.
Because we had as I say, the same management, and we had the same sorts of industry contacts in terms of getting cool things done, you know, between all of the bands and that we were associated with. And this record was really, really, really awesome. We used to call the band Tony because it was a metal power trio, and each guy in the band's name, all their names with Tony, you know, their first names.
That's funny.
So I mean, the only way you can identify
Tortaro, Scaglione, and who was the bass player was also Tony, right?
Tony Bono.
Yep, Bono.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And produced also at Tracks East in Brooklyn. Right. Where Life of Dreams was also recorded by Norman Dunn, as you say, you know. Rest in peace, Norman Dunn.
Yeah. Good one, Sid. Thank you.
Hey, you know, like I said, I had to pull that one little gem out, you know, here and there. I got to surprise people.
Well, look, you know, for me, this is a great record. And when I think back on this record, it's really part of like that sort of crossover, you know, movement of that era. And like, to me, you had some bands that kind of came from the hardcore world primarily, like the Crumbsuckers, you know, and then you had other bands that sort of came, that they met in the middle from the metal world. To me, like Nuclear Assault and Whiplash, man. I mean, these guys, we all met in the middle, but some came from, you know, one side was hardcore, one side was metal, but this was a band that kind of came from the metal side, but they put on a vicious live show, man.
Oh yeah,
awesome. And then, you know, what's interesting about Whiplash, you know, in this particular album also is that where bands like Crumbsuckers and Agnostic Front, you know, and like their Cause for Alarm effort, where we were going, they were already there, you know?
Right.
And that's what was cool. So we were like, in a way, we were kind of striving to be like what they had done on this album. We were totally blown away by this, man. When I first listened to it, I was like, holy shit, man, this is great.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, and here's the back cover. Hold on. Here's the back cover of that record. But yeah, there's the three Tonys, man. The three Tonys.
A very Kill 'Em All-ish style.
Yeah, right.
Scaglione's face just says it all. Like, I'm gonna rip your fucking heart out and show it to you before I eat it.
And this was this Roadrunner?
Yeah, Roadrunner put this out.
Cool. All right, Sid. Great job as always, brother. Thank you. Oh, yeah, and also you got a show today, right?
I actually know, but I did send you something that I'm going to share with the rest of the audience. Actually.
All right, here you go, buddy. Have at it.
There you go, guys. Well, you know, I had to pull one out. You know, obviously Drew's had this guest on, you know, prior, but you know, I wanted to kind of delve a little more into, you know, the band itself, and you know, his time with Biohazard, and even his first band, Spud Monsters. And he's done other stuff in between. But like I said, if you guys are around Wednesday night, 7 p.m. New York time, you know, go over to mixlr.com/STK Sound System. And if you're on Instagram, you can follow me over on Instagram. We're going to do the interview live on there as well. And, you know, just check it out, especially if the weather is bad on Wednesday night. Now you have, you got something to look forward to.
Scott Roberts, great guy.
Yeah.
Old friend of mine.
An amazingly hilarious big dummy, and I love him.
All right. All right, Sid. Thank you, bro.
All righty, guys. Have a good show, guys. And thanks again.
As a matter of fact, Gary, Sid was just, you know, Scott's band, The Take, that he has now. Yep. I came out of music video retirement and directed the 2 videos from their last album. And Sid the Kid was on the road with them in Europe. He was like their merch guy. He traveled through Europe with them, you know?
I saw one of the videos. It was really cool. Maybe it was the first one. But it's like a sort of an oi project, right?
Yes.
Very cool. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I actually, a lot of us really like it a lot. And that's why I did it, man. I'm not in the music video game anymore. It's not something I aspire to. You know, I'm a documentary filmmaker for the most part, but once in a while, you know, something will grab me and I'll just be like, you know what? I want to do a video for this.
That's passion. That's passion, you know. That's cool.
That's the only way it makes sense. So our boy Astoria Lou in Queens sent this to us. Look at this at the Ritz. GBH, Agnostic Front, Leeway, and Crumbsuckers, huh?
Yeah.
I
remember that show.
Is this the show Scott Ian introduced you?
It might have been. I don't have a clear recollection of that particular moment that you're citing, but I remember the show, and you know, GBH was like really they were a hot band at that time, man, and the place was completely packed. Yeah,
that was that's kind of an eclectic bill right there, you know, a little bit of a
I love that old GBH stuff, you know, like Leather, Bristle Studs, and Acne. When that came out, I thought it was like the greatest EP, man. I played it 1,000,000 times.
Yeah, that was great. So let's talk a little bit about you know, after Life of Dreams. You know, there's a little bit of a, you know, sort of an artistic development with the Crumbsuckers. Dave Wynn was out, right? Robbie Kobler was in. And you guys record Bomb, Beast on My Back. Tell us a little bit about that process and how the record was received and how you guys went on from there.
Well, there was a huge musical progression, you know, and there was Beast on My Back was a bit of a departure from Life of Dreams musically, and it, for some fans it was a little too much. But Life of Dreams was actually sort of a greatest hits album from the early years. So you know, what we did was, you know, we came out, we started writing original music around 1982 or so, maybe close to 83. and Life of Dreams came out in '86. So we were like, we were getting rid of certain songs and then adding new ones, which eventually, so Life of Dreams was like a greatest hits album for us at that time. But there was a lot of progression that took place in those years, and we were kind of going more metal, and we really were getting very influenced by bands like from bands like Exodus and Metallica, and it took us in a different direction. And Beast on My Back was a very, very different record, and it was for some fans it was not very palatable, especially for more purist hardcore fans. And in retrospect, it's quite understandable. We were really going for that whole thrash thing, full on, and but still, when you look back at it, I think they're two completely different albums. And each one of those albums has its diehard fans that'll swear by either one. So, oh yeah, but Life of Dreams much better. That's the classic one. The other one, fuck that, and vice versa.
Yeah, I think that I also think that record has aged well. I think Bomb has aged well, and I know we were talking beforehand about sort of our stuff, and you mentioned that if there's one thing you'd love to go back and take a crack at remixing, it would be Bomb, right?
Yeah, I'd like to dirty it up a little bit, and like maybe do something with the guitar tone. I think for that time it was like really good, but we had this huge drum sound, big bass, and the guitars, although that was really our big guns were the guitar players, man, because they were like leaps and bounds above where my musical skills were, and it was very hard for me to keep up with these guys, to be honest.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, also, I mean, at one point, I mean, I know we're skipping around here, but that's what we do. At one point, I think this was pretty much one of the last incarnations of Crumbsuckers. Shit, you had Mark Pivanetti in the band too. So between him and Chuck Lenahan, it's like, damn.
Yeah. And Mark is incredibly talented. He's a great songwriter. I mean, the guy could really do it all. And I think if I had to guess, and I can't say for sure, I think maybe Chris was a bit intimidated when Mark came on board, because Mark was dictating a lot of things in a sensible way, and he's a sensible guy. But it took us in a direction where I think Chris was perhaps uncomfortable. And so Chris eventually weeded himself out of the group, and instead of moving forward with the Crumbsuckers thing, we decided to, hey man, it's so different at this point. Why don't we just go with a different name and and see what we can do with this new music that we're making? Because we don't want to move on and do a disservice to the fans that were there from the beginning. And it's a hard thing, trying to please yourself and please the fans at the same time. And so we had the Heavy Rain project. Michael Lago was involved with Heavy Rain and potentially signing the band. Everything came to a screeching halt when Mark Pivanetti decided to withdraw himself from the project because of some personal issues that were going on at the time. And we were all stunned because we were supposed to meet at Chuck Lenahan's apartment to sign deals. We had a publishing deal with MCA Music. We had the deal from Geffen Records with Michael Alago, because we finally wrote what he thought were like some really palatable hit songs. So it started off as a demo deal, but it progressed. And so we were ready, contracts on the table. And Mark bowed out at that very particular moment. And he was uncomfortable with us continuing to play his music. Right? Hey, rightfully so. It's his stuff. But he wrote about 50% of the stuff at that time. I wrote the other 50%. And after that, I said, what do you got? What are we doing here? Are we going to replace like, the number 1 or 2 songwriter in the band and continue this journey? Or do we go back to the roots and and have a sudden departure from this. We worked hard at it. We probably worked a good two solid years at the Heavy Rain project. Yep. And we decided to abandon it. And that's when Danny and I said, let's go back to the heavy shit. And we started Propane.
Thank you. Thank you for taking us there.
Oh, cool.
No, that was great, because we really want to get into Propane now. And I always, my perception of Propane was always that it's really your baby. It from the get-go, from the first time we worked together, and from my experience with you was always, even like you talked about when Antidote and the Suckers played together, you and I were the ones that were communicating. So I always saw you as the point man, and my perception of Propane was always sort of like, Gary's had enough. Gary's taking the bull by the horns. Gary's getting in the control, in the control console, and This is Gary's thing. He's calling the shots. This is Gary's thing. I mean,
and I think that's true in a lot of respects. But it didn't come from any sort of like heavy-handedness or ego.
No, for sure.
I learned a lot, from the days in the Crumbsuckers and with Heavy Rain, and I wanted to make sure that if I go back into the heavy realm, that it's something also a bit different, and so the music with Propane wasn't so compartmentalized and so progressive as the Crumbsuckers were known for playing, and for me it was sort of just a natural progression as a songwriter. I liked what the Cro-Mags were doing, because it was more easy to listen to for my ears. The Crumbsucker stuff, it's almost like we were masters at making things work that don't necessarily go together, and that's a very special thing. And it's something that I didn't want to try to replicate or duplicate with Propane. Going back to Cro-Mags, these were songs, and I said, I'm gonna do that because I was in this Heavy Rain project, which was a little bit more commercial. So we're gonna take the aggression of Crumbsuckers and we're gonna use the commercial arrangements of Heavy Rain and almost like Cro-Mags type stuff, and that's gonna be Propane. And
let me read a quote. Let me read a quote that I came across doing my homework. And I quote, Meskil's remarkable and commendable commitment to keeping Propane alive and kicking for over 20 plus years, mostly self-financed, thus avoiding record company interference, has been in keeping with the original Crumbsuckers ethos and vibe.
Right. Yeah, that's fair enough. As an artist, it's easy to get too influenced with people that are directly involved with your finances and your business, and I largely avoided that, with Propane. With Crumbsuckers, it was different. We were too young, and we got involved with people that I think they had the right interest in mind and at heart. It's just when you're intermingling that with finances and money and perhaps a certain amount of naivety
and youth,
that's sort of a recipe for disaster, and but you turn it into a positive, and that's the whole Propane mantra is, you take something that's perceived initially as a negative, you turn it into something positive. So you're gaining something positive from negative things in life, and that's the whole ball of wax,
Absolutely. And also the interesting thing about Propane is you stepped up as a singer. How did that decision come about? Like that, hey, you know what? I'm not looking for a singer. I'm going to do it. How did that come about?
It was pretty difficult because, I never saw myself as being a front man. I was always very comfortable just being the guy who played bass and wrote some of the music and just hung out in the background. So I didn't really have this like super outgoing singer guy persona. It's something that I had to kind of grow into, and I was very careful about it because I didn't want to be didn't want to be phony about it. so it's a difficult tightrope walk, you know. And the original singer for Propane was Billy Milano, you know, from SOD, MOD. To this day, one of my musical heroes, you know, when he played me that SOD album, I'll never forget it, man. It was a Crumbsuckers show, and it was somewhere in Brooklyn, man. It wasn't a very good part of Brooklyn, and we were sitting outside. He goes, "Hey, man, I want to play you something." And he had a cassette, and he gave me the headphones, and I was like, "Dude, what is this?" He goes, "That's me with Scott and Dan and the guys
and Charlie."
I went, "Holy shit, man!" I only knew Billy from the Psychos, you know, playing bass in the Psychos at that time, and we were friends, you know. But when he played me that, I was blown away. I said, "Dude, this is you? It's incredible." And when Crumbsuckers were having issues, he always volunteered to step up to the plate. And I admired that. And I thought, why don't, you know, if there's room at some point in time, maybe we can work together and do something cool. And everything was going great until we got in the studio. And, you know, so then the tracks were kind of left for bare, you know, and everything's under the microscope, and you're really hearing things for the first time. Yep. And it was almost like it didn't reach we felt that it didn't reach the level that we were demoing, you know. And I didn't know that Billy's heart was in it, or his head was in it. And you know, with somebody like Billy, I always give him the benefit of the doubt. He's in things to win things. It just, the chemistry was off, and we all recognized it. And it was a really pivotal moment for all of us. And we decided, for the best interest of Propane, that we would part company in the studio with all the music down, and the only thing remaining were the vocals. And
you stepped up into the vocals.
Yeah, I stepped up to do the vocals, and then I had to learn how to become a frontman, you know, after that, and really represent the music properly on stage.
And at the time, I mean, when losing the vocalist, you were a three-piece. Originally, right? Yeah, yep. Propane. Like when I did the video, you guys were a three-piece. It was you, Tom, and Danny, right?
Yeah, that was it. You know, we had other guitar players before. We had Alan Zaleski. Chuck Lenahan came in for a while, you know, who's a really incredible guitar player. If considering we wanted to be a three-piece band, I thought that somebody like Tom Klimchuk was maybe a little bit more what we were looking for on the rhythm end of things, not even, you know, on the lead end of things. You know, there's not a lot of guys that could compete with Chuck Lenahan. It's just incredible, and he plays great rhythm too. So these are very fine hairs, you know, that we're trying to work out, and then we're dealing with a lot of personalities and feelings and stuff like that too. So we just wanted to make sure that, hey, we're all good, and we want to get this band off in the right path, with everyone happy, and let's figure this out. So we ended up coming out with Foul Taste of Freedom with myself, Danny Richardson, and Tom Klimchuk.
Yeah, and you guys, I think it's safe to say that you guys put in the work and really garnered yourselves a really strong European following. I mean, you guys went over there a lot early on and really put in the work. I remember seeing, you know, your itineraries and going, damn, these guys are going deep. You know, you guys really went into some of the places. You guys went off the beaten path, but wow, 15 records, man. That's really proficient, man.
Yeah, we were off to the races from the get-go, with the first European tour being, I think, 90% sold out in advance.
Yeah,
we had a lot of great help and really stiff competition. We had Life of Agony, and we had the Spud Monsters with us.
Right.
So, I mean, if that is some stiff competition.
Yeah.
And that really paved the way for Propane to become we were a much better live band because of that.
Right.
You know, we were watching Life of Agony just killing it, and even the Spud Monsters, that energy. I was like, wow, how do we? We're the headliner, and I'm trying to figure out how do we fit into all this. You know what I mean?
So that's your Scott Roberts connection. You toured with the Spud Monsters.
We were friends before because he was a Crumbsuckers fan, and he was coming to see Propane at a club called Flashes in Cleveland, Ohio, and that was like before Peabody's, that was the place to play. You know. I shouldn't say that. Maybe they were going on simultaneously. I'm not from Cleveland. Somebody from Cleveland would be able to really give me the history on those two clubs. But it was at Flashes where I met Scott, and he expressed that he was a fan of the Crumbsuckers and that he had done some touring with Biohazard overseas at the time. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh wow, so maybe when we finally get over to Europe, we can have these guys play with us because they have a foothold there now.
Yep.
And then we'll also pair it with another up and coming hardcore band or something like that. And it turned out to be Life of Agony. And wow, I mean, I've always been a fan.
Yeah. Chucky Brown, our resident historian, says I hope I'm pronouncing this right, in Ormelingen, Switzerland, they recorded 3 albums: Absolute Power, Straight to the Dome, and Final Revolution.
Yep.
Yeah,
that was a Gelterkinden in Switzerland, which is it's not so far from Basel. It's sort of like a suburb of Basel.
Okay. Sure. Yep.
Not so far over the German border. It's beautiful, man. Like for recording a heavy record, it's like you're in paradise. There's a pool right on the top deck, and it's the Alps. It's really, really beautiful.
Cool.
And those albums were recorded by a good friend of ours named V.O. Pulver, the singer from a band called Gerd, who also toured with Propane in the 90s, and a little bit later on. Yeah, man, we did 3 albums there. The only reason we didn't continue doing it because, hey, man, you do 3, we need a little bit of a break, right? Otherwise, we'd record every album there. Trust me.
It reminds me of that place. I think it's called Les Chateaux in Canada, where Rush. It's a famous recording studio in Canada, and I've seen footage from them recording there, and it's like this idyllic, location, or also like what's the I saw it on what documentary did I see? The Chicago documentary. Elton John. What's it? Honky Tonk. They had that ranch. I forgot what it's called, but wow, they built a recording studio at this ranch, and it was just wow, that's great. I'm used to recording in basements in New York City. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean those albums that you just mentioned, for Propane, were anything but an urban environment, that's for sure. And so you wonder, what kind of an effect does that have on the music? But I think if you know what you want to do, I think if you write a record in the studio, that can have a big influence. But I think if everything's already kind of set in stone, pun intended, then I don't think the environment has so much to do with it. Maybe a little bit, but you know what you got to do, and you just want to go in there and do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So recording in Switzerland was great. I would suggest it to anybody that has some kind of a budget. It can be expensive, man. In Switzerland.
We're going to take a break. Last break. Shout out a couple sponsors. We're going to come back and take some questions. I want to say on the way out that our friend and supporter Michael Gibbons from Leeway says yes, it's Lay Studio. Rush had it constructed for themselves. Lay Studio.
I've seen it on video. It's amazing. It's really secluded.
Caribou Ranch. That's it. Thank you, Larry the Hunter from King's Never Die. Yep. Cool.
Awesome.
Hey, I'll see you in a couple minutes. All right.
Cool.
What's happening, boys and girls? You know what this is, and you know why we're here. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. Our guest today is Gary Meskel from Propane, and the Crumbsuckers. We are sponsored by New York Hardcore Comics, The Organic Grill, Chain Reaction Records and Skateboards, Your Core Hardcore fan page, and the Texas Silver Rush. The Texas Silver Rush is a jewelry design firm and boutique store located in the birthplace of the Texas country music scene in Fredericksburg, Texas. They specialize in working with musicians in all music genres to design and create unique one-off pieces, as well as to style them for stage, album covers, promo photos, and social media exposure. The client list includes Rock and Roll Hall of Famers Greg Rolle, Ringo Starr, and of course, Agnostic Front. During this current pandemic, all information and online sales are being taken at their Facebook and Instagram pages, and of course, www.thetexassilverrush.com. We love you, Joe Ramini, Vinny Stigma's cousin, the Texas Silver Rush. Also, I said it before, I'll say it again. A couple of shows coming up. Next up is Todd Morse. Next show is Todd Morse from The Offspring, H2O, and Juliet and the Licks. Boom, that's happening on Wednesday. So come on now, get your shoes and socks on. We're looking forward to that. Also, as if you didn't already know, I got to mention it again. Join the Patreon page. If not, if the Patreon is too much for you to handle, there's a PayPal address there. Please make a contribution to the show. We're like Channel 13 here, yo. It's your contributions is what makes this happen. So there you go. That said, I want to shout out my man at New York Hardcore. Thank you, bro. Thank you for supporting the show. Don't know who you are behind the New York Hardcore moniker, but I know you support the show. Thank you. By the way, Lenny says, those train cars that Steve was standing in front of cost $3.8 million a piece. Wow. You hear that, bro? $3.8 million each.
Man, I only had 3.6 on me, but
Bro, 3.8. All right, just wanted to let you know.
I appreciate that. Hey, listen, while you got me here,
Yeah.
I got to catch a 5:07, so I'm not going to be back for the end.
Okay.
So I just want to thank everybody and say hello to Gary for me, but I got to catch a train. So I may be back depending on how long you go.
Live long and prosper. I'll talk to you later.
Later.
All right. There you go. No Kangol today. I'm shaving my head, bro. Have you noticed? Come on. Shaving my head. I don't need to wear a Kangol. I wear the Kangols because I don't want to be like that guy, you know? So when I shave my head, I don't really need to wear anything. Another excellent show. Thank you, bro. Thank you for supporting it. Great episode so far. Well, let's do this. Please. It's question time for our guest, Gary Meskel. Any questions you have? I know a lot of people ask questions the first friggin' 5 minutes of the show, but now it's actually question time. So please post them up. Post them up, yo. Post them up. So there you go. That said, yeah, man. That said, what else? Did I cover everything? The merchandise is down there. Buy some merchandise. Subscribe to the show. Yo, I want to shout out Upstate Rick and the New York Hardcore Chronicles live comments crew. Women of the Pit. Got to shout out all my gals, Women of the Pit. I love you girls. Thank you so much for supporting the show. They have a great page on Facebook. It's not for you dudes. It's for you women, girls, gals. There you go. The 100th show has been booked. I don't want to announce what the 100th show is. A few people have guessed it. I wanted to bring somebody on that I'm really connected to and has a real love in their heart for New York hardcore. So I'll announce it pretty soon. That said, let me make sure I got everything. Everything is straight. Here we go. Let's start off with this. Nobody's perfect, NYHC. Listen, if anybody has a burning desire question that they wanna ask, take your yarmulke off and do a super chat, and that'll get my attention. So here we go, Gary. Hey, buddy. Hey. So listen. First question, and I know, and we'll cover a lot with this because this will cover a couple questions. from Nobody's Perfect NYHC. I've always wondered what a third Crumbsucker album would sound like. Any chance? Also, please tell us about the mugging story, which is the incident that happened to you over in Europe. First off, let's talk about any Crumbsuckers future.
It's hard to say with any amount of certainty, but I don't think so. I think it largely depends on if Chris Notaro would want to do anything with the band. I think the rest of us would go along with it. You know, it's hard for people that have been out of the game for so long to just step on the stage. It's like another lifetime ago. You know, I've been doing it constantly, so it's so much easier for me, and it's hard for me to put myself in Chris's shoes or his Crocs.
Yeah.
But I get it, and it's again, it's hard to say with 100% certainty, but I doubt it. I would want to do it. I'm sure Danny would want to do it. Danny and I, we speak all the time, and I'm in touch with Chuck here and there also. Mm-hmm. There is an animosity between any of the members, which is great. And
that's good.
So that's something that we could be proud of. And also that holds true for Propane too. Like any lineup changes that we never had any beef with each other, and it's always been a very amicable split, and that's something that Propane is also very proud of.
Now I know. August 3rd, 2006, you guys did do a reunion. It was the 20th year anniversary of Life of Dreams. You did a reunion at BB King, which was very, very well received. And then, like almost 10 years after that, you guys played the Black and Blue Bowl, and that was very well received. I was there. There's a little clip of it in the Ilago film, and I shot a lot of that show. I know you had another couple shows booked after that. You ended up canceling them, and that was that was it. And also I want to say that I've seen a couple of bands that kind of come back after a while, and when you have somebody who doesn't do it that often, and you kind of trot them out once every 10 years. This is my opinion. My opinion is sometimes it's best to leave it alone.
I agree. Let the band's positive memories kind of shine through.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's better than leaving a foul taste, pun intended.
A lot of puns.
Sometimes, you have to. We get it. The fans really want it, and for me, it's not that big of a chore. I have to just relearn a bunch of songs, and it's fine. But I don't really dictate these things, And if Chris ever called me up and said, "Hey, I'd like to do another show," I'd make it happen. That's my attitude. Will that happen? I doubt it, but that's pretty much where the whole Crumbsuckers thing lies in terms of it potentially moving forward.
Let's talk a little bit. Yeah, that BB King show really resonated. But moving on past the Suckers, you and I talked about this a little bit. I know there's sort of, I don't want to say misinformation, but there's, listen, we heard about this horrible incident that happened to you, over in Europe. And, like in any of these kind of things, you don't know what's fact, what's fiction, what the story is. And I know a lot of us were really concerned about what happened to you. It was horrifying news. Can you give us like out of the horse, pardon the pun, out of the horse's mouth, right? Can you tell us about the incident and what happened?
Yeah, I'll try to give a reasonably shortened version of what took place. We were I think just 2 shows into the tour at that time, but we happened to have an off day. It was like during a festival season, so you have some off days here and there. And while we were traveling, considering my drummer lives in Brussels, I figured that I would book a hotel somewhere in Brussels, right? So, and I did this while traveling, without really investigating what the surroundings or something like that. I just didn't think of it at the time. So, upon getting to the hotel, I noticed that this is a pretty rough neighborhood, and it turned out to be literally right on the border of one of the no-go zones in Brussels.
So this was Brussels, Belgium.
Mm-hmm.
Brussels. Yeah. Okay. Brussels can be a pretty rough and tumble place, man. You know?
Oh yeah, for sure. Because some of it is like complete lawlessness because the cops won't even patrol there.
Yeah.
So, and this happened to be like right, literally on one of those neighborhoods. And when I checked into the hotel and I got into the room, I said, I'm not gonna leave my money here. I wasn't packing that much because we're just 2 shows in.
Right.
But so I had all the money in one envelope, and I decided to take my passport and credit cards and put it in the same envelope and just take it with me. And my guitar player, Adam Phillips, and I were staying in this. We were sharing the room, and it was kind of seedy. I said, I'm not going to leave my shit here, you know.
Yeah, of course.
I'll leave my briefcase here, but I'm taking the money with me.
Yeah.
We went out. We got Indian food. Made our way back to toward the hotel. Right across the street, and this is a very narrow street. There's like sort of an outdoor cafe, and we sat and we had a beer. During that time, he got a Skype call, and it was from his girlfriend, and he figured, hey, I'm gonna go back to the room and speak to her. And I said, cool, man, I'll meet you back over at the room. Almost instantaneously after he got up, there were 3 gentlemen that sat down. Hey, you know, and hey, could we sit here? Hey, I have no problem with this, right? So they sit down, and so we start making small talk. Nothing of the political nature or anything like that. I had a New York Yankees hat on at the time, so they asked me where I was from, and I told them that I was from the States, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And I eventually had to go to use the toilet, and just being nice, I asked if they would like a beer, right? And 2 of them declined. One of them said, "Okay, I'll take you up on a beer." I went in, used the toilet, came back, and so I pulled the envelope out at the bar. It's a pretty crowded place, you know, and didn't think anything of it, man. You know, paid. Was holding a beer for myself and a beer for the one guy that took me up on the beer offer, and was heading toward the door. And I got bumped from the front, like in the chest, on the way out. And he's like, "Yeah, I'll take the beer, man." It was one of the guys sitting at the table. And at the same time, I got bumped from behind, and I thought, you know, this is like, I think I just got pickpocketed. I thought. And the money's in my front pocket. It's in my front left pocket, right? And sure enough, man, the envelope's gone.
Oh.
In that exchange. So I caught them, and like the second after I confronted them, I got hit from behind with a weapon, you know, and that was like a weaponized ice pick. So It's not like what you're thinking of, these old school ice picks where, you know, it's a small weapon, you know, it's got a pick on the one end and it's got like a hammer on the other end, right? And I got hit with the hammer side. The side of the hammer I took to the back of my skull.
And this is inside this establishment?
Yeah. Yeah. And then it was like a free-for-all. Like I don't remember anything after that because I was out when I got hit with this object. I just saw the video at the police station, you know, and they kicked my face in, man. I had what's called Lefort fractures, which is the heaviest that your skull can take. So this is Lefort 1. So right here was shattered. Lefort 2, which is the middle of your face, I had that also, and Lefort 3, which is my eye socket was smashed. And you know, aside from all that, I ruptured a maxillary artery, so the bleeding wasn't stopping. So I had 3 blood transfusions. When I went in. I had 3 bags of blood, man, and that's like, you know, it's a total of like 1,500 cc's. So you on 2,000, you're dead. You know, and that was the biggest problem. It wasn't so much the fractures. It was that they were doing these nasal packs to try to stop the bleeding, but it wasn't stopping. Yeah. Really, really crazy stuff, man. And I watched this at the police station. It's like you're watching a video of yourself getting murdered.
Jeez, that's horrifying, man.
Yep.
Wow. And
really great stuff, man.
And did the police did they ever get these guys?
They got 3. There was 6 of them. And they got 3, and you know, after I came home, because that's a story within itself, because I said, you know, whatever. They weren't accepting my insurance overseas, you know, and
Right.
they wanted like 12,000 euros just to get the hell out of the place. And I'm like, if I need a procedure done, I'd like to get out of here and have it done at home. And their argument was that they have to, you know, check to see before they release me. They have to see that I don't have any brain damage, you know.
Oh.
And so I had to wait and stay there for a while and do a lot of tests and wait for a lot of results. And then once they cleared me of that, I was like, all right, I'd like to sign out, you know. Oh, we still there?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to sign out. And hours went by. And I'm like, you know what? I got to get the fuck out of here. So, and this is like something out of a movie. So I only had a gown, which was open in the back. I didn't even have any fucking underwear.
Oh.
Everything was at the police station in an evidence bag, right? My sneakers, my glasses. I could hardly see. And so I called my friend from the nurses station and I said, hey, man, I need you to come over here, man. Can you pick me up and bring sunglasses and sneakers? All right. And I took the elevator down, you know, hoping to sign myself out, but there was nobody at the station. So I was barefoot, man. And I walked out in broad daylight in one of the busiest sections of Brussels, with a hospital gown on, with my butt crack showing out of the back, waiting for my friend to come. And all these passers-by, man, they're like, what the hell, man? They like Frankenstein was just released.
Wow.
You know? And all of a sudden my friend comes, I put the sunglasses on, went back to his place. And it was great that I have friends over there, because I went there to recover before I went home. You know, I had
your wife, boy, that must have been terrifying for your poor wife, man.
I had promoters, you know, that were begging me to, if I could do anything. I'm like, I'm almost dead, man. What can I do for you?
Do anything.
We had this festival for 10 years going. It's going to kill. So there was a lot of pressure on me to come back. And when I was still over there, I said, I'm gonna like try to sing a song. And I had the craziest pain, like shooting up as a result of this fracture right here. It was like an ice pick to the fucking brain. And as soon as I started singing, I re-ruptured the artery and I started bleeding. It was the biggest mistake ever. So I had to come back home, get some procedures done here locally. Mm-hmm. I had cracked teeth that more than I even imagined, because some of them are like hairline cracks. You know, it was a fucking mess, man, and a complete nightmare. It really insane. And I don't wish that on anybody, man. It's really bad news all around.
It's a horrible story, man. We're just so glad you're okay, and I mean that, bro.
Thank you, man.
And you know, you hear about these horror stories, you know, you know, these sort of roving packs of professional fucking thieves, you know, like, you know,
right. And you have to really, be careful these days more than ever. A lot of people here, they couldn't identify with this. And how did this happen? I think now, you know, after we had a lot of incidents, especially, you know, prior to the elections and stuff, people can sort of identify with this kind of thing more.
Yeah.
And it can happen, man. So you really have to be careful when you go, especially to places, even where you think you're a bit familiar with. But
yeah,
you know, when it hits a certain point of the evening, you really have to have eyes in the back of your head sometimes, you know.
Listen, Brussels, man. I have personal memories of being over there with Billy from Biohazard. We got into some shit, and like, you know, and someone let out like a whistle, and next thing you know,
yeah, that's it. I know exactly what you're talking about. And
man, it was like 2-on-2, and dude blew a whistle, and then it was like something out of the Warriors, bro.
Let me ask you something, man. Was that at the VK Club?
I honestly don't remember. I remember it was in Brussels. I don't remember the name of the club, but we went out after the show, me and him. I think, if I remember correctly, we were trying to take a cab, and we had words with the cab guy, and we were like, yo, fuck you, this and that. Dude let out a whistle, and the next thing you know, it was like, it was fight or flight. We ran for our lives, bro.
We had almost the same situation in the 90s, and so we're talking about probably 95 or so.
Yeah.
And this was at VK Club in Brussels. So and this is also that same sort of no-go zone.
Yeah, it's that neighborhood.
And it was bad back then. So where I almost died, it was that much worse in terms of lawlessness, right? But back in the 90s, I remember we were having dinner at the VK Club, and all of a sudden some very dear friends of ours from Brussels, they show up and they say, "Hey man, they're burning your T-shirts in the square." I said, "What? You got to be kidding me. No fucking way." They said, "Yeah, they're burning. There's piles of propane shirts on people's cars and they're on fire." So we ran out to the tour bus and the bays are broken open.
Oh.
There was more than 1,000 T-shirts gone. So naturally you're gonna hey, we're gonna kick their ass, right? So we run into the town center. We see all the T-shirts on fire everywhere. And next thing you know, we get caught up in it. And even old women are throwing vegetables and fruits at us, right? Next thing you know, we're in a tug of war with our merchandise guy who's getting stabbed in the hand.
What did you do? Why?
They didn't want Westerners and particularly bands from the United States playing. Even there was a rap band called Arrested Development. Remember them?
Oh, yeah, of course.
They were there like the night before, and they got the same treatment.
Jesus.
So this didn't have to do with color or ideology. This just had to do with like that they didn't want any American. They didn't want to have anything to do with any Americans in their neighborhood, man. And they were going to fight and get rid of us. It was crazy. And when the thing happened to me in Brussels, the press was all over it. So they wanted interviews right away, right? And I'm very careful about that stuff because I don't blame groups of people for things, because I like to consider myself to be more than that, and I'm not going to go down that path just because somebody wants to do an interview. And I blame it on individuals, and I blamed it on individuals then, and I blame it on individuals now, and that I thought was important. But as soon as I didn't want to blame an ideology, the phone stopped ringing. You know what I mean? And I thought that was interesting. They didn't want to hear anything about the story anymore because I didn't want to inflame the situation.
It's the world. It's the way the world is now in news.
Yeah, you're right.
It reminds me a little bit, and we're going to move on. We're going to go towards the light a little bit. But we had the kid on here that sort of was involved in an incident in New York where some like a mentally ill person tried to take a baby from a mother.
I saw that.
Yeah, I had him on the show. And he's a real straightforward kid, man. He's a good kid, Brian. And he said to me, yo, as soon as he told these people that, he's not left or right or this or that, and he's not going to play into, they didn't really want to talk to him.
Exactly. And the press tried that with me too. They expected me to come out with some sort of anti-Muslim rhetoric. I'm not about that. I mean, we have plenty of Muslim fans, but particularly in places like Bosnia, other places in the world. These are great fans. These are great people. I'm not about that, man. You know what I mean? So
yep.
I don't like. I don't get tangled up in these ideological wars or religious things. I'm about religious freedom and equality now.
Absolutely. Here's a question from R Paris 34. R Pararis 34. Hey there, Gary. Whatever happened to guitarist Tom Klimchuk? Is he still playing? He always killed it live when I saw Propane.
I thought I saw him at the bar last night. And my wife had to point out that it was just probably my terrible eyesight trying to recognize somebody from the other side of the bar. But she did say that, yeah, it looks unmistakably like him. I was about to walk up to this guy. I am in touch with Tom. Not as often as I would like, but we're in touch probably on a monthly or bi-monthly basis via email. He doesn't live so far from here, but we don't get together. I hope to get together with him, but I leave that up to him. You know, I don't force my presence on anybody, and I love the guy. You know, he was such an important part of the band, and he
was in the
mostly
band
medical reasons for leaving.
He was in the band twice, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
because when he initially left, we were still a 3-piece band, and he left because he had a really bad Crohn's disease flare up. He wanted to stay out, but when he went to get his medication at the pharmacy, there was an incident.
Ooh.
And I said, I have to send you home, man. I have to be responsible for your family, man. I can't do it, man. You know, but I said, you know what? If and when you're well enough to come back, we'll be a 4-piece band, and so I'm going to hold the spot for you, man. You know.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, that was sort of the open door for him to return for Contents Under Pressure.
Yeah, and he was in the band when I did the video. Here's a comment from Baz de Vries. Hello, Gary. I've watched many shows of Propane in the Netherlands. Always amazing, very energetic, and without breaks between songs. How come, and how do you stay fit as a singer, bass player doing so many shows?
I have a pretty good rehearsal regimen. So I do a lot of singing before I even get together to play with the band, you know, for each tour. I make sure to sing at least 2 to 3 weeks prior to getting together with the guys. It's important for me. It's not a vocal style where you can just, you know, sort of come in out of the blue and play a whole set. You'll blow your voice out in song 2 or 3. So what I do is I'll sing a song alone, crank up the speakers on my computer or something, and just sing into the air. I don't need any real professional vocal setup, just to rehearse. And for me, it's even better because it's almost like jogging with weights, you know, around your ankles. So I'll do one song, and the next day maybe I'll do 2, and then take a day off, and then come back and do 3 or 4 songs, and build up the vocal stamina.
Wow.
And whereas when I'm on like day 10, I'm doing like a 40-minute set, you know. Right. And so on and so on and so on. So when I get together with the guys, I'm already at least vocally very well rehearsed, and then I can do it every day, you know, and provided I don't get sick, you know, that it holds up really well that way. If I get sick, then it's another story. Then you're dealing with like the human element, you know.
That's really interesting. It's like it's a muscle, you know. It's a muscle that you have to, you know. And I have that issue too, because, you know, I these days, you know, I don't sing that much. We don't play that much. So, you know, when we do play, you know, it's almost like one and done, or maybe a weekend, a couple shows, and, you know, we go all out. So it's, I blow my voice. I blow my voice out every time, and, you know, Antidote would play, you know, and so but as it goes on, it gets stronger. That I know, you know. Right.
And, you know, my advice is it's a little bit limited to with regard to what type of vocal style the person has, because I'm not like a fry vocalist.
Yeah.
You know, so that's like it's lower decibel. So it's like, you know, very low, but you're getting a great tone. I don't cup the microphone like a lot of the guys to get the tone.
Yeah.
I get it from my diaphragm and through withholding some at the throat level, but I sing with a tremendous amount of decibel. So I'm a very loud singer. So for me, it's beneficial not even to have my guys can hear me even without a microphone at rehearsal, you know, and so I don't even use a microphone at rehearsal because I think it helps me back off a little bit, even come the first gig. And I'm probably one of the only guys who does it that way.
Here's a question from our good friend and supporter, Gary Olfert. Hi, Gary. Is there any chance of the middle part of the Propane discography making it onto vinyl? Would love to see the likes of Round 6, Act of God, etc. on vinyl.
I think so. You know, I don't know who's going to release it. There's always interested parties. We had a catalog deal with SPV Records.
Yeah.
For Foul Taste of Freedom and The Truth Hurts. They had the rest of the catalog. I sort of got a vibe early on that they were mostly interested in the first two records, you know, and they released those on vinyl. And for one reason or another, I think the interest waned as far as them fulfilling the rest of the deal. And
yeah,
for me, it's okay because I have another party that's interested now, which is a division of Napalm Records that would like to take on the catalog. And so it'll happen. It's just about ironing out certain legalities and technicalities at this point. I own the masters to all the stuff.
Fantastic.
But I want to make sure that it's an absolute clean slate, even if SPV verbally and by way of email said, yeah, we don't have any ownership anymore. Yeah. There is a little bit of they could exercise a little bit of wiggle room there if they really wanted to, and I want to make sure that everything is straight before we go ahead. But I think there'll be some moves in that regard in 2021.
Fantastic. Our resident historian, Chucky Brown, it's time for our Chucky Brown question of the day. Propane's second album, The Truth Hurts, was initially banned due to the sleeve artwork. Can you speak on that?
Yeah, the original artist or the guy that was in charge of the illustrator who was in charge of the layout and a lot of putting together this whole theme with largely New York City police archive scenes. And horrific scenes. So this is sort of a theme album, just depicting harsh realities. You know, that's basically what it was all about. And we had a lot of these, you know, disturbing photos as part of the whole package. And when we submitted the artwork and the master to Energy Records in New York City, they were initially all about it. They thought it was really strong, very dark, but they were in line with what we wanted to do. The big problem came with our licensing partner, Roadrunner Records, because they licensed it in Europe and they refused to release it because they didn't get a lot of things with the album. They said, "What's wrong with Gary's voice?" And they just weren't on board with a lot of the ideas that we had for the record. And so I felt like we were sort of forcing them into certain things. And so it's a reason that the partnership stalled out after the Truth Hurts. And we went on to release our next European album through Edel Records, you know, which they released Contents Under Pressure because of this sort of strife.
Is that the cover, the original cover?
Yeah. And we put the sticker over the stitches,
the incision, right?
Yeah, it's actually it was part of a piece in an art gallery in Indiana.
Yeah.
So this wasn't part of the archive footage that speaks for the rest of the booklet. So this was separate, and they were very adamant about not using it on other stuff like T-shirts and stuff. That's why you never really saw it, at least officially on there.
Right.
And so, of course, we honored that. And so you have the sticker over. So the thing was, okay, when you open up the package, it's sort of this contrast where you're expecting one thing and getting the other thing, you know. Mm-hmm. And I thought there was, despite the fact that this is very dark art, I thought that there was some artistic value to be had in it. And of course, that's why people wanted to re-release it and sort of do what Roadrunner refused to do in the old days. Ironically, despite the fact that Roadrunner wouldn't release the early booklets, and they took it upon themselves to give the people a censored version, they tried to order 75,000 booklets, original booklets from me afterwards, because there was such a demand for it, you know. And I said no. And they also wanted to exploit the fact that Ice-T was on the record by, you know, making that like the sales pitch.
Yeah.
You know, I said, don't do that, man. This is between friends, man. I'm not using him to sell records, you know. So
yeah.
And and they were irked by that. I said, this is not why we've done this collaboration. This is between friends, and I don't want to. I don't want to use a friend of mine, to help us sell tons of albums. That's not the way we do it, And they couldn't understand that.
No, they couldn't. Hey, heading down the home stretch here. Let's take one last question here. There's been a couple questions about the beer. Hey, Gary, this is from Ripper Roberto. How you doing, Roberto? Hey, Gary, is there a plan for more Pro Pale beer to come out? This beer was really good. Make beer, not love.
Hey, it was a really good beer, if I must say so myself. And I had nothing to do with the recipe or the great outcome. Those were the brewers at Doc Brewing in Belgium. I couldn't brew a beer to save my life, but I appreciate a good beer, So this was a beer that was presented to me first by way of my wife's Facebook account. Them saying, the brewers saying, "Hey, I want to introduce myself. I'm a local brewer in Belgium. We want to come down to the upcoming show. We'd like to bring Gary some beers for a blind testing." Yeah, of course. So we got him and his wife backstage. They had some beers brown bagged, and they asked me what my preference was, what my favorite was, and I had no idea that they really planned to take it further and do an official brewing for us. So I said, yeah, I really like this one particular one, and that's what they used for the Pro Pale. And first they were like, we called it Pro Pale. I said, this is your project, I'm just happy to have a couple, and if you like the name Pro Pale, you do it, you do the artwork, do the whole thing. And it turned out to be something really wonderful. And the beer was brewed with Sriracha hops. I don't know if you're familiar. It's a Japanese hop variety, and it's called Sriracha Ace. Mm-hmm. But they grow this one particular version of it in Belgium at a local hop farm. So it takes on a flavor all its own. It has a bit of like lemon, coriander. It's a bit more medicinal or herbal tasting. Not something that you anticipate with an IPA or a pale ale, But it's really, really great, refreshing. It's only 5% alcohol, and I don't know whether the plan is to come back with another round of the Pro Pale, but we've been speaking with the same brewing company, Doc Brewing in Ghent, about a Pro Pale 2.0, which would be an Imperial IPA, and it would be Pro Pale 2.0 contents under pressure.
Oh, there you go.
A red can with a hop hand grenade. That's the idea.
That's great. That's awesome. Hey, man, listen, I want to thank you for coming on the show. It was great to talk. It was really great to talk to you. And we're all so glad you're okay. And we all really look forward to hearing new music and seeing you out on the road again. Is there anybody you want to shout out on the way out?
Just to all the fans and all the friends, that tuned in. You're doing a really great show.
Thank you.
For me, you're like the new Tim Summer, and this is the new Noise, the show, because you've been miraculously keeping track of this whole thing and logging all this, and it is the real New York Hardcore Chronicles. You are doing just that, and that is awesome, my friend, and we all commend you for this. And you have a really entertaining show. I'll be tuning in and checking it out for some of these upcoming awesome guests that you have. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. It was my pleasure, and you all have a happy holiday season, and look for us next year for 30 years of Propane.
Thank you, Gary. I'll talk to you soon. Thank
you, my friend. Take care.
Well, there you go. Another great show in the books. Gary Meskel from Propane and Crumbsuckers. Wow. Great show. And thanks everybody for the support. I'm fortunate that I get to do something that I really love doing and something that I'm getting kind of good at. Getting kind of good at it. So it's really great. Thank you, Thomas, Federico, Baz. Thank you, brother. Listen, like what Gary was saying, this is my life. This is my passion. This is for real. This is one of the loves of my life is to document and to be a music historian. And New York hardcore runs in my blood, and it always will. So everybody, take care of yourselves, and we're going to see you on Wednesday for Todd Morse. Until then, do me a favor. Do good things, and good things will come to you.